Today, with approximately 1.3 billion followers, Hinduism is considered the third most widely practiced belief system in the world. According to some researchers, Hinduism, which is believed to have the oldest roots among the religions still existing today, is considered a deeply rooted and ancient religion, even though it has evolved into mythology. The traditions of Hinduism are thought to extend back to prehistoric periods of religious practices. The word Hinduism is derived from the Sanskrit and Indo-Aryan word Sindhu. The Persians, who were close to this region, had difficulty pronouncing the letter S, and over time, the S at the beginning of the word turned into the letter H, resulting in the word Hindu. The term Hinduism itself was adopted by Indians in the 1820s to distinguish themselves from English colonizers and other beliefs in the region. However, the word Hinduism defining this belief is relatively new, and the common name for this belief in India is Sanatana Dharma, meaning eternal order. To understand the origins of Hinduism and determine how ancient this belief is, we need to examine a migration movement that occurred in South Asia about 4,000 years ago. Around 2000 BC, people living in the distant Central Asian steppes from India began migrating southward to access better resources. The origin of Hinduism was particularly considered one of the peaceful points of the Indus Valley. According to researchers, those who settled in the region created a new culture by assimilating with the indigenous people, and the foundational texts of this culture, known as the Vedas, emerged. The term Vedas is derived from the Sanskrit word Veda, which means knowledge. There are a total of 4 Vedas, and they were written down between 1200 and 300 BC. These texts contain ancient knowledge believed to have been brought to the region by a culture from Central Asia. The Vedas are considered the sacred texts of Hinduism and were initially transmitted orally from generation to generation before being written down. According to Hinduism, the emergence of the Vedas extends to people called knowers of the truth. These knowers heard the sounds wandering in the void that came from infinity, memorized these sounds, and taught them to their students. The Vedas are sacred texts passed down through generations and were first put into a specific textual form during the reign of kings in the 300s BC. The concept of karma, one of the belief principles of Hinduism, is of great importance, especially in the social life of Hindus. According to Hindu teachings, the soul has lived many different lives before the current one and will continue to live many lives in the future. This cycle, called samsara, determines a person's social status and life in the next life based on their behavior in the previous life. The concept of karma represents a reincarnation process that has been ongoing for thousands of years. This process of reincarnation is subject to the law of death and rebirth called samsara and covers not only humans but all existence. According to Hinduism, although the samsara cycle is not infinite, it is a very long process. However, another belief principle of Hinduism, moksha, signifies liberation from this cycle. Moksha means freedom or liberation and, according to Hindus, the samsara cycle is not infinite. Moksha symbolizes liberation from this cycle. Throughout human existence, one can live more than 8 million lives and finally reach liberation, which is moksha. Moksha is the ultimate point of Hindu belief and is the final and most important step of the 4 fundamental principles that actually constitute the basic purpose of living to achieve moksha. While the first 2 steps of this principle, kama and dharma, determine the purposes of everyday life, moksha provides goals for salvation beyond life. When these concepts come together, they form the philosophy of life in Hinduism. However, one of the most complex topics in Hinduism is the belief in gods. When you ask a Hindu how many gods there are in Hinduism, the answer can be millions or just one. According to Hinduism, all beings are actually different manifestations of Brahman, the universal soul. Brahman represents the universal soul, and everything on earth is a reflection of Brahman. According to Hindu belief, Brahman is like a single ocean in the universe. Although beings, considered as drops of this ocean, have the chance to exist independently, they always remain as a part of Brahman. When it is believed that Brahman is the universal spirit and everything is a reflection of this spirit, millions of gods and goddesses in Hinduism are considered as reflections representing different attributes of Brahman. This belief system deepens Hindu thought and emphasizes the philosophy that beings are actually parts of a whole. The understanding that Brahman encompasses everything and all beings are reflections of this universal spirit reflects the complex yet profound thought system of Hinduism. To illustrate with a simple example, Brahman, in Hinduism, is a universal essence hidden in all beings. Every being is a reflection of Brahman, witnessing and perceiving everything. This universal spirit is singular, covering, uniting, and encompassing all entities. Setting Brahman aside, Hinduism acknowledges millions of gods, but these gods are generally considered reflections or representations of specific attributes of Brahman. To better understand the belief system in Hinduism, we also need to look at the creation belief, along with concepts such as Brahman, karma, and moksha. Brahman delegates the task of creating the world to Brahma, the creative god. According to Hinduism, Brahma creates the first man and the first woman along with the world. These are considered ancestors of the entire world and can be thought of as an Indian version of the Adam and Eve belief in Abrahamic religions. However, the world created by Brahma is not fair and is full of inequalities. A social structure based on the caste system emerges. Brahmins, i.e. priests and teachers, are at the top of the caste system. The next level includes kshatriyas, i.e. kings, aristocrats, and warriors. Following them are vaishyas, i.e. merchants and artisans, and at the bottom are shudras. This caste-based social structure shaped the Indian society under the influence of Hinduism. The next level is designated for Sudras, i.e. workers and servants. Below all these groups is a category called the untouchables. These individuals perform heavy and dirty tasks, such as toilet cleaning. According to Hinduism, the souls of those in this category are constantly polluted, and some Hindus avoid even touching their shadows. The caste system in Hinduism is a rigid and harsh system. In contrast, the belief in karma and samsara provides a structure that alleviates the despair of those living in the lower classes. Because karma allows those who live their predetermined lives correctly and properly to hope for a better position in their next lives. For example, let's consider the life of a person belonging to the Sudra or servant caste. Your role assigned for this life is to be a servant. To successfully complete this life, you need to be perfect in serving, listening to your master, not deviating from his words, and fulfilling the tasks given to you flawlessly are your primary responsibilities. If you do these things correctly, you may hope to be a master in your next life. However, in present-day India, the distinction and inequality between castes have not been completely eliminated. This issue reflects the complexity of social and economic dynamics in India under the influence of Hinduism. For instance, intermarriage between groups in different castes is still a rare occurrence today. One of the common misconceptions about Hinduism is the idea that Hindus worship cows. Occasionally, they are insulted or made the subject of jokes because of this belief. In fact, the issue of cows or some other animals is a bit different in Hinduism. In Hinduism, a cow is not worshipped but considered sacred. This is because the cow can provide milk and can be used in agriculture. Therefore, Hindus consider the cow sacred, do not consume cow meat, and organize festivals for cows. The tradition of honoring animals by Hindus is not limited to cows. For example, in Nepal, they organize a festival to honor dogs for the friendship they offer to humans. The idea behind these traditions is to live in harmony with animals and be at peace with nature. In addition, Hinduism has various gods and goddesses in animal forms. Hindus perform all these rituals and beliefs to reach moksha, i.e., salvation. According to Hindu belief, to achieve moksha, one needs to go through millions of lives and live for millions of years. Since this process is quite laborious and lengthy, some people from around 6th century BC began to think about whether there could be a shortcut to reach moksha. Indeed, the question of whether there is a shortcut to reach moksha is an important topic in the history of thought.